Well, we're thrilled to have all of you join us today, and we'll dive into the topic of improving collaboration between QA and developers. My name is Esther Todt, and I'm a project manager for our academy here at Andagon, and I'll be your host for this session. This is the third session of a series of webinars that we kickstarted in October. And if you feel like you'd like to check out more of our content, make sure to follow us on LinkedIn, where we regularly post updates mostly about software testing and QA. If you prefer the email channel and you would like to stay up to date with the training courses that we'll launch in the future, you will also have a chance to sign up for our newsletter after the webinar. And just to give you a little overview of what to expect today, the presentation will approximately take 45 minutes, and then we'll have a 15-minute Q&A. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat during the presentation or after the presentation too. We will collect all your questions and answer each of them at the end of the presentation in the Q&A session. In case I would miss something in the chat, feel free to ask again at the end, and we'll come back to it. We're really excited to have QA expert Mihajlo Stojanovski here today. And then without further ado, I will give the stage to Mihajlo.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining in for this session. It's really exciting. And this is a subject that's very dear to my heart. I've been in the IT industry for 16 years, and I've gained a lot of experience working with both as me as a QA, but also with a lot of developers, engineers, product owners, product managers, everything in between. So today, what you're going to hear from me, it's not only just telling you how you need to do things, but I also want to listen to your feedback as well in terms of how you've experienced things. Some things you will hear is like maybe you knew them, but you didn't know how to implement those things. So everything will be like, I'll try to put everything in order in the next 45 minutes, even though each of these subjects can be a session on its own. But yes, I will try to do my best today. I hope you see the presentation. I think everything is all good. So we can start off. Now, the title says faster releases, fewer defects. That's the golden thing that we aim for, the golden standard. But for this, we need the QA dev collaboration in each individual team. And let's start with the first slide. So we have today's topics agenda, and we have effectively 7 topics to go through. The first one will be identifying collaboration gaps. I mean, by collaboration gaps, it's between QAs and devs. Then we have building empathy. The third one will be creating a unified communication framework. Next, we have testing collaboration with BDD. Afterwards, we have automation and CI/CD integration. After CI/CD and automation, we're going to talk about retrospectives and scorecards. And then last, we're going to go through cross-training and knowledge sharing. Okay. I believe you've heard a lot of these things, especially if you already have experience in the IT industry. If not, I'll try to get you on board with the, I don't know, the shortest explanations I can give you today. Okay, cool. Let's start with identifying collaboration gaps. I believe each and every one of you has been on an interview for a QA position or even a dev position. One of the things that the people that are conducting the interviews ask you, how would you overcome with a situation when you have a friction between you and the developer? And even though this is like in the past, I've taken these questions like why these people are asking me this question, but this has a huge impact on the team dynamics. And throughout the years, I've tried to come up with a list, a reoccurring list of things that are causing these collaboration gaps. Okay. Um, a lot of the times they can be sometimes can be cultural, but in many cases it boils down to almost all these listed right here. So the first thing we'll see is that we have a lack of clear communication. Um, what we understand about clear communication, we have unclear bug reports, we have vague requirements, we have missing documentation. And all these three things that are listed here by themselves give you a clear image of why it can become a collaboration gap between you and the Q and the dev. And as you can tell, sometimes it's the QAs and the devs the fault, but sometimes it's not. It's clear you must understand that it's whether it's your or it's not your fault and how to act upon it, and not to treat it as a collaboration gap that will create friction. So that's first thing. The second thing is misaligned goals. QAs focus always on stability. It's our nature. It's a mindset that as soon as you get into the industry, you are focused on stability of the product. You want to be stable. Devs, on the other hand, are treated in a different manner. They are treated to their breed, how to put this, in a way to be focused on speed and agility and come up with quick solutions and stuff like that. And sometimes this causes a friction. It's the philosophy of approaching things. And there are other things as well in misaligned goals in terms of where we're heading with the product, and sometimes these are the product owners that are misaligning the goals and create frictions. But when we talk about QAs and devs, it's the mindset, it's the way we are approaching things. The third one is siloed workplace. QAs and devs, especially when they're working together as a separate entity and not together in one team, causes a lot of friction. I've seen situations where in teams where these structures were heavily siloed. We didn't even know the developers. A ticket would come in, and we are the QAs. We need to tackle this one, and we're getting constantly frustrated. Why this developer from another team, where we don't know where he is or who she is constantly giving us trouble, and it can be a very simple misunderstanding. And this is where, as I said, silent workflows are also a huge collaboration gap, create such a huge friction between the teams. Next, we have late stage testing. This is when testing happens too late, right? So it's been in the developer's pipeline for a long, long time. People are, pushing this for later release, and the release gets released later and later on, and then everything is toppled down on the developers, on the QAs, and then this causes friction instead of being collaborative. So the developers need to take into consideration that this needs to be tested, and we need to take into consideration that QAs will be, tortured down the line when this is happening. I have a very good stories about this. Many years ago, we had situations where we were the client was pushing for a deadline, and the deadline needed to have a lot of new functionalities, and the developers themselves pushed back, said, listen, we can deliver this, but you need to take into consideration that this needs to be tested. And if it's tested way too late, everyone will have a problem, including the product. You guys are going to have a problem. The QAs will suffer. So the developers in this case foresee that this is going to cause a huge friction, and this will create a collaboration gap. And this is really important for everyone to understand. And the last bit is the blame culture. When bugs become someone else's problem instead of having a shared responsibility. Bugs are a shared responsibility. they can get one person maybe will be technically be responsible for creating the bug by code, by whatever the case is, but the bug staying alive, it's a shared responsibility, and that mindset needs to shift to that. Um, no one's in particular is blamed for a bug. It's on everyone's shoulder. So when you add all these things up, you're going to have uh, a clear understanding, even in your teams. If you go and do some retro analysis of what happened to your team, and when these things happen, you'll find a lot of these things, and the majority of the time, you'll find all these things going on. And as I said, uh, this is our first poll. So please, what's the biggest QA dev challenge you've come up with? And please share your answers in the chat, and Ashta will provide me with the answer. So you have, let's do it 1 minute. So just drop down. So you have miscommunication, we have late defect detection, misaligned priorities, or lack of shared ownership. Let's put in the number and let's see what the heat map will show. What's the biggest QA dev challenge?
We have misaligned priorities, lack of shared ownership, late defect detection as well.
Okay,
these three for sure.
Okay, cool. So as you see, everyone had their fair share of all of these. So that just proves a point that these frictions are spot on. And this is the beauty of this is that you're going to be aware of these things. They're not going to happen random in your workflow. So that's the goal today for you guys to understand. Okay, cool. If the poll is over, let's move to the other bit. It's building empathy between QAs and developers. When we're creating this presentation, I really love this picture. I believe this is like in my imagination, this is Mexico, and in Mexico there are a lot of earthquakes, especially in Mexico City. And in order for them to keep the buildings together, not to crumble apart, they put in like an exoskeleton on the facade of the building to keep it together. And it looks like the whole building is holding together with these arms, spread around and holding it together, as if the girders like portray empathy between each other. So why empathy matters? As if you recall in the beginning, I said there's a different mindset between a QA and a dev. And trying to understand where you guys coming from, it will help you by developing empathy for you guys each other's mindset. It will help out for us guys to understand where you're coming from, and you need to understand. Everyone needs to understand where you're headed together. And by doing this, you're reducing the conflicts and you foster understanding. If you bridge this, if you combine your strengths and you understand each other, it will be a huge improvement to your teamwork. You're gonna do faster releases. You're gonna do faster bug resolutions, and the overall product quality will be on the highest level. And by doing so, it also encourages shared ownership of software quality. If you recall a slide ago, I said to you that bugs are not the developer's fault; it's everyone's fault, because you share that ownership, and that ownership is nurtured by empathy. Okay, so please build that. And this is what I've experienced throughout my life. So this is not something that's been officially put out there, but this is like when you have coffee with your colleagues and you listen to their talk, and this is what I've heard. One of the things I've heard a lot of things. So what developers will say, QA is just looking for problems in my work. Why do they report edge cases that will never happen? Fixing bugs slows me down, but it always works on my computer. Okay? And what the QA thinks, developers don't test their own code before handing it off. They do not care about quality, just release features. Why do they always mark bugs as won't fix? I even got to a point when someone said to me, I would rather sell cabbage on a supermarket instead of being a testing, or even instead of testing code or writing unit tests or whatever the case is. So, as you can see, there's a lot of um, there's a lot of differences in terms of how people are approaching things, and this type of now from if you look at it, when you look at all these misunderstandings that seem very funny, but sometimes this cause friction. It's people's nature to take them on a bad temper. Right. Third one, creating unified communication framework. Okay, why communication matters? I think it's pretty obvious. It reduces misunderstandings. This unified communication framework reduces misunderstandings. And an example of misunderstanding would be a very bad bug report, or a very bad user story, or terribly written test case. And I've seen this as a huge issue in many, many, many teams. It's one of the biggest, effectively, friction when, let's say, QAs fail to write a clear bug report. Sometimes developers write bug reports, right? So it's not always the responsibility of a QA to write a bug report. Maybe a developer picked it up and he or she needs to write it down, and they write it in a very, very bad form. User stories, again, one-liner. You have one sentence and you need to pick out whatever the writer, the creator of that user story wanted to write with it. Test cases, etc. And also the speed up, this clear communication speeds up defect resolution. Imagine having a really good user story, and for that user story, a bug is being created. And when you have a very good written bug, a user story, you have a clear understanding as a developer how to fix it, where the problem lies, and you as a QA how to test it or retest it again. So, and it will be done in a record time. Next one is it enhances collaboration. A lot of companies have a lot of terminologies, and every time you join a new company, you find out there's like abbreviations, terminologies, and whatnot. And you're in the dark for a long time, not understanding what they're saying, and you feel like, oh my God, I don't understand why question your life, question your degree, why I'm not understanding this. But it's because someone did not share with you the terminology that's being used in this particular company. And there is no structured communication. And it's like, it creates a massive confusion. So you need to have a framework that understands that you have a really clear terminology and how you're going to use it in order to have a good collaboration. And then you have aligns expectations. This is also a very, very important thing. Uh, a lot of organizations, even I would say the majority, have problems with this. There is no definition of done. There is no clear understanding of what is a bug severity. There is no clear understanding what is an acceptance criteria. You would be surprised of how many organizations, top tier organizations, are lacking these standards, these frameworks. And everyone is doing the rule of thumb and saying, this is an urgent bug, or this is a high priority bug, or this is a normal bug. And someone would ask, what makes this as a high priority and it's not normal bug, and so on and so forth. And this is because you haven't created a clear, unified communication framework. The documentation exists because of that. And also, acceptance criteria are subjects on itself. I can spend hours and hours explaining how people are mistreating the acceptance criteria, the importance of acceptance criteria. Okay. All right. So, key elements of a unified framework. You need to have, first of all, standardized bug reports. Inside those standardized bug reports, you need to have clear steps to reproduce, expect and actual results, and also environment details, browser details, device details, everything. So you need to have a very nice bug report. The solution in many, many occasions lies of how good the bug report has been written. If the QA had a nice report with screen recordings, with video recordings, with clear steps to reproduce actual results, expected results, you know what you need to fix as a developer, you know where the problem is, you know what the version was, you know what the browser was, what operating system was, the solution will be there, right? So that's why I'm saying it's a key element to have a nice bug report. The next one will be the defined SLAs. You need to set up a response type for bug fixes based on severity. You need to communicate with your stakeholders, your clients, what means something that's urgent as a bug, what something that is high priority, a normal bug, and so on. Because this affects collaboration between QAs and devs. It affects their jobs. It affects their their workflow and the friction and so on and so forth. So we need to have that as QAs and devs. Please align with your managers on the SLAs. It's really, really important. Next, we have the glossary of the common terms. As I said earlier, a lot of terms like critical defect, regression, and feature freeze, and everything is tossed around randomly, and people have misaligned understanding of what a regression means, or what a feature freeze means, or what is a critical defect, what's a high priority defect, and so on and so forth. So you need to have this common terms glossary ready, and everyone to be very familiar with it. You need also to have regular sync meetings. Dailies, you have a weekly stand-ups as well. You can have extra meetings throughout the week just to align to if you have any issues, to overcome any issues, and so on and so forth. So you need to have those meetings set up in place. And one of the obvious and most important things is to have a centralized place, a centralized tool where you can track all of that. Luckily, these things have improved throughout the years, but when I started, we had a tracking board like Trello, and then we had another tracking board for something else. For development was Jira, for QA was Trello, for customer tracking was something else, and you needed to juggle all these different places and applications to get the proper information. And a lot of misunderstandings and misalignment happen because of that. Luckily now all these tools provide a lot of functionalities, and I believe that use of centralized tools is crucial for your unified framework. All right, so you have a task now, and this is a Jira screenshot and a bug from a bug. Can you please in the comments write what do you think is missing, or it can be improved, or maybe it's not missing at all in this bug report? Just write down as a comment, let's say a minute. Think about it. I hope you can see all the details. Just write down what do you think is missing in this bug report. And Ashta can read me some of the comments.
All right, proper description, steps to reproduce, expected and actual result, and what environment we found the bug. That's the first comment.
Cool, good one.
Proper description, steps to reproduce, expected result, actual result.
Cool, okay. Anyone else?
No, we've received a question. We can address it in
Later on.
at the end.
Yes, Q&A session.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you guys. Right, so that's what you've written is absolutely true. And you think this is not happening? Oh yes, it's happening. I've seen even worse than this. I don't, yeah. So they won't even put a description. They say logging is not working, and you don't know who posted it, why it posted, why it was posted, and what was the priority, and so on and so forth. Another thing, you guys pointed out the truly missing bits here, but also you have a lot of these labels here, like our parents and teams and so on and so forth. Please bear in mind that you need to assign them correctly, and do not leave them in the in the ambers without having them assigned to the proper team, to the proper sprint. Please pay attention to that. I've seen a lot of even good written bugs being lost because they were assigned to the wrong team, a different sprint, or maybe a misaligned label, whatever the case is. So if you have systems like Jira or any other system, please, as much as you can, know your team, talk to your team, assign these. If not sure, then maybe you can raise the subject on a daily. Should I put something here, or whatever the case is? Or ask your Scrum Master, whoever tracks your board. So that's good. So here we have one description. The logging is not working. You need to put in more details, obviously, as you mentioned. And you have the comments coming in. What does login doesn't mean? Invalid password, button disabled, error message. What? Please explain yourself. So that's a good example of a bad written bug. Right, cool. Now, this is an interesting subject. It's called testing collaboration with BDD. I don't know if you're familiar with BDD. I know you guys heard about BDD, but it's a really cool feature. It's a feature, but new development type approach, I would put this. It is helping a lot of non-technical people to understand what the product does and what the product will do and how it will be developed. Basically, it follows the Gherkin syntax, and it's really easy to read. It's humanly readable, and you don't need to read code and to understand what it's going to be. And it reduces the misinterpretation of the user stories and acceptance criteria. It's called human readable code, and it looks like as a Gherkin style given when then, and if you combine let's say using Cucumber and test automation, you can create the so-called feature files. In those feature files, using the BDD format, you can create new test scenarios, test automation scenarios out of existing steps that are in the code itself. Here's an example of a BDD scenario. It's called feature user logging. The scenario is successful login. The first bit is given the user is on the login page. You initiate the scenario. When they enter the valid credentials and they click on the login button, then they should be redirected to the dashboard. And as I said, in Cucumber, you can make this every single step that you see here. It can be an automated scenario. So I can reuse each of these scenarios as much as I like. And I can create my own custom scenarios, or maybe the product owner can do it. So, and the question now is, right, okay, how does this help me with the collaboration? Well, what I advise you guys to do is when a user story comes in and it's been brushed through, everyone worked on it, and everyone's clear what they need to do. It's been put in the backlog, ready to be developed. You as a QA can go through that user story, extract the test scenario, the test case in the form of a BDD. Okay. And then you can assign that ticket as a subtask to that ticket. And you're going to have both a test case and a user story ready for the developer. And why this is important? Imagine you being a developer, and you need to write the code for a certain functionality. You read the user story from the PO, you have the acceptance criteria, and now you have the mindset, the recipe that was given by the QA for you to read, including the negative scenarios, the edge cases, and everything in really nice and readable format for you to develop the new functionality. And when everything comes for testing, I, as a QA, will know that you saw this, you foresee my scenarios where this could go wrong, and you put in all the extra measures in the code. And when I get to test the thing, I know that a lot of things are being covered, and the possibility of creating a bug as minimum, absolutely minimum. So it's a really nice approach. So the take-up from this is, when you have a user story in your team, try to create a BDD scenario, assign it as a subtask to the existing ticket, and give it to the developer. And say to the developer, listen, you have a BDD scenario ready for you with all the cases inside. Just read it. When you develop it, check your code with this. Okay? Check the logic behind it. It will work a miracle. Now, I give you a very short task for you to understand the scenario. So you have a feature, user login, a scenario, forgot password, given a user is logging in. When they click forgot password, what you guys gonna write? So this is just a small teaser on the BDD. I want you to get hooked on BDD thinking. So what would you write as the next sentence? Write it down as a comment, and we'll take it from there. Hashtag can write me. Don't be afraid. Just write anything you like, even if it's wrong. It's not So just have the mindset of I'm a user that I've logged in. I'm trying to log in. I click on the forgot password, and what will happen, and or then what will happen, and so on and so forth. So you have that given, when, then, and the and word.
In the meantime, we also received a comment that BDD also helps to identify gaps in requirement definition.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. Yes. I completely agree with that. Um, as I said, imagine you're a developer and you have the user story next to you, and the QA goes through the user story, asks all these questions, but effectively the QA says, okay, this is the happy flow, this is what the PO wants. Now I'm going to give you all the things that I think they're going to go wrong. And you are a developer and say, all right, the QA is right? We're missing something here. We're missing a mechanism here. And let's raise this as an issue with the PO, right? So that should have been done on the on the on the different meetings that you can have prior to this. But anyways, things go unnoticed and in the last moment. So you're going to, as you develop it, you figure out more and more as a lacks of functionalities, lacks of documentation. Is everyone done with this scenario? You guys understand it? Hopefully, right?
Yes, we have received some comments.
Mm-hmm.
Then the user is asked for his email address to send the password reset link.
Yes, and there's a link and so on and so forth. So it's really easy, right? So please do not be afraid to use this. And if you are as a developer, please push for this to get this insight from the QA prior to you writing the code. Okay, because the format of test cases where the individual things are cleared out, like if I click on the button called X, this will happen, and on Y, this will happen, and on Z will happen, this will happen. But the logic, this is a very good recipe on how you can approach and improve your software quality and get down those bugs. Now, automation, CI/CD integration. Why automation and CI/CD matter in QA and dev collaboration? First of all, it's obvious. It reduces the manual testing effort. Automation does that. It helps you to early detect a defect because you're going to run these tests automatically in the pipelines. And what it does is also improves the code quality that developers does, because you guys as QAs continuously test the product. And the bottom line is that it helps you guys work together on creating a test automation strategy. This is really important. QA automation, you need to think of it as a tool that will help you improve your lives, both as QAs, but also as on the developers. And in this modern age, as you guys know, now there is no difference. There's a shift of paradigm. There is no difference between a QA automation engineer and let's say a developer. Everyone now does automation development. I've seen a lot of teams where this has been a shared responsibility. And this is what I'm saying, automation and the CI/CD integration really improves collaboration, really improves the software quality, really improves all that friction. Prior to that was, all right, the QAs were writing the automation, the DevOps were doing the CI/CD, and everyone does their own silo thing. Oh, we have issues with the pipelines. Everything is failing. Oh, everyone is very nervous before going live. Why? Because everyone was doing a silo thing. No one was doing this together. That's why I'm saying you need to have for anything that is code related, especially, you need to have good collaboration. And what are the key components? You need to specify what are your smoke tests first in any automation. Please sit down with the developers, with the POs, and everyone. Please sit down and define what are your smoke tests. Okay. Whenever commit to critical failures. I don't know. Then you have what are the regression tests. You want to make sure that the new change that you're going to implement, it won't crash your functionality. Next, you need to focus on the end-to-end, and you need to do the user journey. So you need to get a user flow. You need to understand. You need to see if that everything works as it should. And also, you need to make sure that everything, integration works, all API works, everything works well. Okay, so you need to have all this aligned in your pipeline, and you need to work together with the developers to come up with all these things in a perfect set of order to improve the software quality. And not only that, this will make you collaborate even more. If you have more understanding, everyone will understand the software, the release, everything will work much smoother, and those frictions will be a thing of the past, and you will have a very fast delivery. Okay, please bear in mind, you need to have these crucial components in your automation and your CI/CD. Now, for another best practice, as I mentioned earlier, is that developers and QA now, and this is a later trend, co-own test automation efforts. Please, if you have a team and someone will say in your team, it's not our thing, it's a QA's automation's responsibility for that. No, everyone should own the the test automation efforts. Okay, so usually for some reason front-end engineers take this role, but mature teams need to understand that. The test results need to be shared in dashboards. Everyone should know what happened, and the QAs need to help define the clear test coverage. What are the expectations? And please, this is really important, regular test maintenance. Please. You need to be on top of your automation tests. You need to update everything, both you and the developers. That's why I'm saying it's a collaboration. This will help you work better. You reduce the conflicts between each other. You're going to have faster releases and everything. Regular maintenance. Now, just a quick poll. If you guys have an automation suite, how often do you guys run the tests? Whether it's every push of code, once a day, before release, never, or other.
We have a never.
Okay, one never. Okay, I reckon that you don't have an automation suit. But okay, that's perfectly fine. But please have it in plan to have an automation test suit in you, and yeah, it will help you dramatically. Anyone else?
Depends on the project. Most times there isn't even test automation.
Okay, cool. All right. So many organizations do this differently. It's their different approach on this. Some of them do every push of code. Some of them once a day. I've never heard about one doing it per release. Usually it's run never multiple times before. And if they have automation and are not doing it, oh, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. You need to talk to your managers about that. Now, we have retrospectives and scorecards. I know you guys been a lot of retrospectives, and I know you know and understand the concepts. And the short term is that you help and identify issues early to prevent recurring mistakes. You create accountability for QAs and devs, including. You have open discussions, and you take actionable improvements. So it's really important for you guys, for QAs and devs, to be very sincere when you have the retros. It's really important. I've seen, I can tell you from my personal experience, even in my recent engagements, retrospectives saved multiple teams. Okay, please do not underestimate them. I know sometimes they can be very boring, but that's good because there are not a lot of issues there. But when there are issues arise, you're going to see how important they are. And on the these really important meetings, you need to not only complain but also talk about your success. Talk about what went well. You know, you need to put in also the positive bits as well. You need to talk about what didn't go well. You don't have to blame someone. Do not do the blame game, but you need to be sincere what happened, whether we were missing test cases, whether there were some delays, whatever the case was. You need to tackle. You need to put them on the board. And the most important bit is what we can to do to improve. You can standardize the process. You can do better automation coverage. You need to decide. And usually all the problems are resolved using I call it, it's called actually the 5 whys principle. If you have any problems in your life, any problems, not only as a QA or dev or development, any problem in your life, ask yourselves 5 times the question why. Do that, and you see how often by the time you ask the last question, when you give your answers on the last why, you're going to find the answer. It's going to be maybe, I don't know, brutal, but it's going to be the right answer you were looking for. And also for our QAs, it's really important to have a defect detection rate. So how often the percentage of defects that were caught before the releases, you can showcase that. How often you have a bugs reopened. So you need to also showcase that to show how often you need the same, you pick up the hotspots of your system. What is test automation coverage? So everyone would know, the stakeholders would know how often, how big is the test automation coverage. So they will know how they can rely, how much they can rely on the test automation. And also you need to figure out a response time to bug fixes. So how quickly devs address the defects. So that's also really important, an important metric. So you need to have these scorecards that will help you determine the problem. Because if you do not have a determination of the problem, you're going to have conflict. Okay? Trust me, you're going to have a conflict. And the seventh bit is cross-training and knowledge sharing. Again, this is really, 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 really important, especially now where we see this shift of paradigm of that the QAs and devs are both responsible for the quality and especially in automation. People need to help out each other in developing skills. QAs can bring their mindset, their specialty in the testing and how they will develop the code for testing, and the DevOps can bring their engineering, their to make how to make the code better, how to make the code more efficient, how to make the code more, I don't know, the CI/CD work better or smoother, and so on and so forth. And these cross trainings are really important, as I said. It helps out build the team, make it a less to make the workplace a less confronting place, because when everyone has their own they have their common goals set together, they set out their goals, it will create a very pleasant working atmosphere, and this will make the releases much more smoother, and the software quality will rise exponentially. So please, whatever you do in your teams, whether you have or have not set up a test automation, please do the cross training and knowledge sharing. You will find a lot of developers that they know automation testing that will help you out gladly, and they will willingly do that because it knows it will help them out down the line, and vice versa. Things that we as QAs know, the developers do not know, they're not aware of. Please create these cross-training sessions to explain to them that the quality mindset that we as QAs have. And how you can do that? You have pair testing, so you can sit together. I've done this a million times. I literally sit down to the developer, we'll talk to about a certain functionality, we'll brainstorm it together, he or she will write it as a form of code, and so on and so forth. So that's one thing. As QAs, we learn to do code reviews. So a developer said, this is how we do it. Please try to copy our ways of thinking and how we do the code reviews. Then the developers to try out to run some test cases, right? So to put them into your shoes. And also, if you guys have QAs that do not know automation, put them into the development team and let them learn to do automation and CI/CD integration. So after all of these things that we've covered, please pick one of these four, or maybe even four, I don't know, takeaways that you would like to implement in your team. So please pick one, maybe four, I don't know, knock your hat out. So better bug reports, BDD collaboration, CI/CD test automation, and retrospective scorecards. What is your, how to say, favorite? And you're going to say, all right, I've been on this training on the Andagon Academy, and this is what I wanted to share with you guys we can implement into our team.
We have two CI/CD test automations already.
Mm-hmm.
And someone is still typing, so.
Typing. Okay.
A plus D are essential, and B plus C is the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. I understand your position. Cool. Right. Now, I think, Esther, we can move on with the Q&A session. I think we've made it right about in time, I reckon.
Sure.
So, yeah, can we do the Q&A now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mihajlo, for the presentation, all the content, and we have received two comments already. Anyone who's has other questions, feel free to type them in now. The first question I will read it out was, how would you approach the communication of the necessity of having a unified communication framework and later implementation? Nearly always made the experience that nobody in upper levels want to put effort into that. We'll do this later if there is time. Now let's get started with the things needed directly for the project.
So you mean like they're pushing, from what I understood from the question, they're pushing back on the unified communication framework. Am I correct?
Yes. And how would you approach?
Firm
Yeah.
approach. Firm approach. State your case. Listen, I reckon you're a QA engineer. Maybe it's not, if you're not a QA engineer. But if you are, you can say, I'm a QA engineer, and my main goal is not just to do testing. My main goal is to provoke, to implement quality in the system. Every time an issue arises, everyone needs to understand that that the quality has been compromised, if I say, and the QA's role is here to alleviate that in terms of, okay, here's something that I found that we're missing, this unified communication framework, and this causes friction, and we can see that it causes friction, and we need to put in the time and effort to build it, and that comes from the quality perspective. Okay, as I said, short answer is it's your responsibility as a QA engineer to enforce quality. And that's it. And you're going to push for your agenda. And if they ask you why, then you're going to claim because it causes XYZ problems. And as I said, what we all talked about, the friction between QAs and developers, the friction between developers and POs, and so on and so forth. And then the stakeholders will not be satisfied because of all this miscommunication happened and misaligned things happened, and so on and so forth. So our job as QAs is enforcing quality. Sometimes you need to be a bit pushy. Okay. Hope that will answer your question. Any other
Cool,
questions?
thank you. If not, then you can also follow up in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was another question, which was sort of answered, but I think we can address it now too. Is the BDD approach good for more complex features?
Yes, absolutely. I've worked on another couple of years ago. I worked on a very complex project, and we tried this approach. So I can give you a very easy way to understand this. So the PO would come in, and she would explain us the user story. Okay, you have description, everything neatly organized with acceptance criteria. And the usual way of doing this was, okay, the developer takes this user story, develops it, and then I, as QA, wait for it. When it's ready, they will drop it on my column, in my Jira column, and then I'll start testing it out. So what we've tried is like, okay, let's do this a bit differently. I would also, when the story was, approved, scored, the scorings and everything, the weight was calculated, and all of those things, all the happy things that are happening, I would take the user story, and I would create a BDD scenario, because it's very easy to understand and to read it based on the user story. So not only the happy flow, but I also I would come up with all sorts of different edge cases, negative scenarios. As you understand that, you come up with different ideas, and you understand this language. The Gherkin language is really easy to do. And in my Jira ticket, I would have, like, I don't know, 10 different scenarios. Some of them were edge case, but nevertheless, I put them in. And the developer would take the ticket, and he or she will read the user story. So, okay. And then he or she will open up the BDD scenarios that I've put in. Okay. And then he or she will understand the happy flow. But the negative scenarios are not always covered by the developer. They do not have that mindset compared to we as a QA have. like I can give you 1 million examples. You all guys know that, like boundary values analysis. I don't know, uh, whatever the case is, all sorts of different things you can come up with as a QA, and you put it in, and it's for the developer. It's everything is chewed up. They just need to write down the code, right? You need to just relax. They have everything covered. They just need to focus on the code, and that's it. And it makes their life a lot easier. And it's going to make your life a lot easier because when the ticket comes for you to test it, right, you know that the developer was aware of what could go wrong with this scenario. Okay, and you test it out on locally, or on the staging, or whatever the case is you're going to use, um, you know and everything works. Okay, right? So the probability of having a bug at that point, it's minimal. It's not going to have a bug, but it's down to minimal. Okay, so that's why I'm saying, it's a very nice collaboration tool. um, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's why I'm sharing it with you guys. It's a really nice and novel approach. Okay, any other questions?
I think no, we addressed everything.
Cool.
So thank you so much again, once more. And before we close, I would like to encourage everybody to check out our website for more resources, subscribe to our newsletter for updates, and follow us on social media. Your engagement means a lot to us. It was really great to have you here in this webinar. You'll also receive a follow-up email after the webinar. This will contain the recording as well, which you'll also find on our YouTube channel. So if you want to come back to it later, you'll have it. Thank you once again for joining, and we look forward to seeing you in one of our future sessions. And Mikhailo, I want to thank you also for your time and sharing your thoughts and knowledge with us. Yeah, it was really great to have you.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your being here, and hope to see you guys soon on another session.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a great evening. Bye. Bye.